the fact that it is better to use that money in other ways to like flip that investment in experimentation, in working out what the other reasons that an audience is looking to engage with your charity.
So those keywords we need to think about these drive loads of clicks, but they don't really convert. But these ones don't drive that many clicks, but when they do, they convert. So do we need more of that keyword in our content? And if I'm frank, and you will not like to hear this, Matt, but for me, I can care how it looks if it's performing well. You can care.
Hi friends, welcome to the next episode of Between Me and You. Today I'm joined by Ollie. He's the founder of Farah, an agency deeply immersed in helping charities make the most of their digital presence. We're going to dive in to the often misunderstood world of digital ad grants, like the Google Ad Grant, and exploring how charities can leverage this powerful tool, not just for immediate fundraising, but for really interesting and valuable learning, testing, and ultimately to deliver a more impactful digital strategy. I think we're going to debunk a few sort of common misconceptions because we've spoken about that, how people might think Google grants work or the benefits of them. And I'm hoping that Ollie's going to share some real practical insights to help charities sort of flip their perspective on how grants can be used. So as usual, I invite you to join the conversation, share your thoughts in the YouTube comments, and let's get started. So, Ollie, welcome to the show. And I know your team has a significant reputation in the charity sector. I believe you've got the Farah charity program, is that right?
Yep.
So I think we're going to really understand a little bit about that. A bit of background would be great to hear. How did you get into, a reputation for Google Ad Grants? But also, I think let's start with what's the core mission for your agency?
It depends who you ask, really. But I founded the agency with my brother, hence the name, very original. Why did we start the agency? I'd love to sit here and say because we wanted to make a difference in the charity sector, but ultimately we were both pretty unemployable and thought, what can we do as jobs? And we saw Google ads and Facebook ads as like the future of advertising. And not to discredit my brother, who's far more employable than I am, he was already working as a freelance Google ads expert and a world-class DJ, which he wanted me to get into today.
Okay. Can we cut to some of the music?
Yeah, well, not for me, but no. And that didn't quite work out for him, so he's stuck with me now. But really, we spent 5 years trying to build an e-commerce agency, so working with challenger brands to ultimately fight for market share. We like that as people. I'm very competitive. If we thought a brand was cool, we'd get on board with them. We'd sort of understand their product or understand their service and say, right, who's your audience and how can we go and get them? We've done that to an extent. We've got a team of 4 managing about 12 to 15 clients, and it's not e-commerce anymore. I'd say it's service industry. But on the sort of side of that, we started working with a few charities known to us. Tusk were the first one that said, "Here's this ad grant. Can you implement it for us?" And that was like 6 years ago. We did that, and then they introduced us to someone else, and they introduced us to someone else, and yeah, we'll do another ad grant, no problem. If we're an e-commerce agency, but we'll do another ad grant. And then suddenly we were working with sort of 10 charities. And then Google got in touch with us because we're obviously doing quite good work for these charities. And then we became certified. So we're Google Ad Grant certified professionals. There's about 5 or 6 in the UK. And yeah, spent 5 years trying to do one thing when actually we're becoming very good at another thing. And so for the past 2 years, we're still doing the working with brands, and that's all kind of referral based, but we've really sort of gone for this to help charities. And so yeah, really what we've tried to do is build this product with a charity program. And it is productized to a degree, where we can just take that off the plate and generate really good results with free money, which is available to them as far as we can take that.
And let's sort of talk about that free money.
Mm-hmm.
What is
Yeah,
The Google
the
grant.
Google Ad grant is $10,000 or £7,000 a month in Google Ads credit. So Google Ads budget. It's available to any registered charity with a good enough website. It really doesn't even need to be that great. Just enough content on there. And then it's just government entities, education, so schools, universities, and hospitals. They're the only three that aren't eligible for it. But every other charity, the grant is available to them.
Because when we were speaking the other day, you mentioned that sometimes the charity hears about it and then suddenly thinks, right, that's going to answer all of my fundraising challenges.
Yeah.
That it isn't a silver bullet, but I'm quite interested in how your team are using it in a different way to still deliver impact and value to charities.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tough conversation, that one, because usually they've been introduced to it, huge amount of money, you can get your donations, right? And that obviously that we'd love to do that, but the reality is just we always ask charities to put yourself in a consumer's shoes. So your behavior on Google, are you typing in donate to charity? Like, people might be, but then who's appearing? It's the big charities who are paying for those ad spots. So to get your charity to appear via an ad grant for Donate Now, it's not going to happen. But that's not to say that you can't get donations and event sign-up, volunteer petition sign-ups, email sign-ups. That's what we're trying to do. So we're certainly not saying that that's not possible. It's just about what are we actually going to use the grant for? The end goal that we always try is there the information on your website that answers the question that someone's searching for on Google? And then can you match that search demand and content piece? That's like the foundation of what we do as an agency. That's number one. If we can't do that, then we're not confident we're going to make the ad grant work. What we use the ad grant for is we would never set up a Google Ads account with your own money how we'd set up an ad grant account. But because it's free money, and it's like the marketer's dream, because you can just test, and you spend it. It's not yours. You don't need to worry about, like, if Google takes some of your money, which it does do, and sort of you spend £500 in a week. That would be heart-sinking stuff if it was your own money and you get no results. But for them, it's like, that's a test that didn't work. We can silo that now.
That's helpful, because I always interested in, like, challenging assumptions. So because that immediate response of, right, like you say, I got free money to advertise my charity. I'm going to advertise that we want more money, because that's one of the, we're doing great work. We always need fundraising to do that great work. But actually, your perspective, and I think absolutely, let's get through. Everyone loves the process, right? So let's talk about your process next. But the fact that it is better to use that money in other ways to, like, flip that investment in experimentation, in working out what the other reasons that an audience is looking to engage with your charity, rather than the unlikely intent that they are typing in donate to charity of my type.
Yeah.
And like you say, and if you did spend all of that grant on that, you're probably entering a very fierce market for the ad as well.
Yeah.
So you've got this charity program, and that's got a 5-step process. Is that right?
So that's for the Google Ad grant.
Right.
The program is for any charity looking to sort of grow their impact via paid channels. So Bowel Cancer UK, for example, we don't actually manage their ad grant currently, but we run Google Ads and Meta Ads for their public fundraising and regular giving teams. But for the majority of our work, and where we kind of the core of our offer is accessing this ad grant, Google Ad grant for any charity that we have a qualification process first and foremost. So first is, like I said earlier, is there search demand for this charity? Is it like a broad cause appeal? Is it national? That's all helpful. It doesn't have to be national, but if it's regional, it has to have at least a broad cause appeal. And then is there search demand on Google for it? Because if people aren't searching for it, your ads just aren't going to show. And if we can connect those dots and there's enough content on the website that we're confident we're going to make this work, then brilliant, let's crack on. So we have a 5-step process. And number one is the website is the foundation. And I think that's when we initially spoke, because I've been speaking to as many sort of developers as we can in order to just get an idea of how people can help charities, especially charities that don't have massive budgets. And because the content on the website is what triggers ads. And so if there isn't enough content, especially around the sort of broad cause appeal, charities, much like myself, I'm sure you've done the same thing. It's you when you're writing your content, you get very specific about who you are. Drill into the details because you're sure everyone has to know all the details. But actually, you need broad. It needs to be broad and it needs to be speaking to as many people as possible. And so what we do is we kind of build a bit of a framework where we say, this is the search demand. This is what matches on your website from a content perspective. Can we write more articles, blogs? Can we write more about this particular topic because it seems to have a high conversion rate? But that all comes from the reporting, which is step 5. But number 1 is like, is there content on this website that's going to trigger ads? That's what we're looking for.
In that first step, you then actually say that you can't go further until you sort your website out, whatever like that.
Or we're just very upfront, like your ads aren't going to trigger. It doesn't need to happen instantaneously and we wait until that happens. Like we can still do stuff behind the scenes, but that is like, that will be in the first conversation, and it's almost like a traffic light system. And it's like you're currently on a red light, so we need to at least get that to amber before we can move through to the next stage. But it's also like a little bit of an education piece, and some people get it, some people don't. And like if you're not from a marketing background or you're not from a PPC website background, it doesn't land. So we do as much of the heavy lifting as we can, but then we don't know the charity. So if I try and write it, I'll get the branding and the tone completely wrong. So we try our hardest, and obviously you've got delicious tools like ChatGPT, etc., that can help with that sort of stuff if you're looking for sort of slight shortcuts. But always edit it, always read it. But yeah, that's the foundation. And it's like, are there defined endpoints as well? So if I make a search on Google and I click an ad, but I land on the homepage, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these symptoms. I want to land on that page that has the symptoms that I was looking for. Or if I was looking at wildlife, for example, we work with those of the wildlife trusts. I want to land on that specific piece of content that I'm looking for. I don't want to land on the homepage with a donate now button in front of me. So understanding where you can put people in order to maybe take their email address or sign up to an event or a webinar or whatever you can offer. So it's trying to give something away for free or value that then you're tying them in longer term. But that's like a kind of a bigger piece in terms of the overall marketing like structure. But yeah, that's like a big part is understanding how the website is gonna dictate how ads look, and that comes from number 2, which is account structure. So we literally mirror the website in the account. So to try and make that as seamless as possible. But also, if a charity updates their website, you don't have to tear down all your campaigns in order to rebuild it, because you know where everything's placed and you just pull those bits down and rebuild them. But also, it starts to help you understand how the website's performing. And I know this is what we spoke about, but it's such a big part of what we do. A lot of the time, charities will say, we need a new website. Okay, why do we need a new website? Because it doesn't look great. And I'm frank, and you will not like to hear this, Matt, but for me, I can care how it looks if it's performing well. You can care. But my brother was with you, Matt. Go, absolutely not. There's a particular page that all the conversions come through. And when I say conversions, that might mean sign-ups, events, positions, whatever. And they changed the page. Why? Who's been in charge of that decision-making? And so the account structure can tell you that. It can tell you which keywords drive the most clicks, which keywords drive the most clicks that then convert. So those keywords we need to think about these. These drive loads of clicks, but they don't really convert. But these ones don't drive that many clicks, but when they do, they convert. So do we need more of that keyword in our content? The third is ads. Ads is like your one opportunity to speak to your audience, and people are so lazy with them, and also so rigid and like.
What do you mean
on brand?
They're so lazy. What do you mean?
So just like it's someone's made a search, you've owned that, your ads appeared in front of them. Like, let's grab them, let's get that click. So it's like, do we have a bit of fun? If we look at that keyword, are we like reviewing what ads are appearing and how we can stand out and amongst those ads? Annoyingly, Google have kind of taken away a bit of the art to it, because you just use a dynamic search ads now, which you just feed it a load of headlines and it will make the best ones out of them. But Yeah, I think it's like your one opportunity to speak to a new person, and you want to grab their attention. You just want to earn their click. So like a bit of thought around that. I like to try and have a bit of fun with it sometimes. But again, I'm also very aware that some charities are quite strict on their tone of voice and branding. So trying to get that right. But yeah, I guess it's when we have all these briefing docs, so we'll send them over all the ads templates and they can write them in themselves, and then we'll sort of review them with them. But what that should then feed is your website content. So if there's a particular advert that gets a really high click-through rate and a really high conversion rate, that should be headlines for your blog content, pages, or anything, because that clearly is grabbing people's attention.
Yeah, the other week you even mentioned Bing, which we hadn't heard of.
I'm big on Bing. I'm big on Bing now.
You're big on Bing.
I'm big on Bing.
Why?
Well, because I'm getting a little bit obsessed, and first buzzword of the podcast, but AI. I'm getting a little bit obsessed with like what's available, and a little bit scared. And then the second part is I use ChatGPT for everything now. I don't use Google, which is pretty bad from a Google Ads agency, but my behavior is really shifting off it. If I'm a charity, what does that mean for me? How can I appear in ChatGPT search results? And they pull a lot of their information from Bing.
Really?
Yeah, because Microsoft are big investors, I think, in them.
Okay, so a lot of the information of like results where you want to be appearing. So 5-10 years ago, you want to be appearing in rich search terms on Google search. You now want to appear in response from ChatGPT.
Yeah, and not just your Claude and all the options available. But so how do you do that? And it remains the same thing as we were talking about with the website as the foundation. Is you need content on there that's going to trigger. So that's still the same. So that's not scary. You should be doing that always. If not, you should be doing it way more than you ever have. Yeah. Well, 4 is quite apt because it's automated bidding strategies. So it's using Google AI. So we use maximise conversions. That's the best bidding strategy, which is when you set it at campaign level, it asks you, and there's like 5 different options. If you can set it, if you have a GA4 link to your website that's pulling through conversions, so it has to be set up correctly, you can link that to your Google campaigns in your ad grant using maximise conversions, and your ads will be way more competitive using that strategy. If you're new, maximise clicks is a good way to get started, but maximise conversions is really like the piece de resistance when it comes to spending the max amount and getting the most out of the grant. So that's what we try and lead people up to. And once you really sort of peak that, then it's a case of optimizing. But that's number 4. But now they've introduced PMax, which is brilliant for brands. I'm not sold yet for charities. We've tested it on about 20 of our members, and the results haven't been anywhere as good as maximise conversions. A lot of gurus saying you have to use it. We maybe they getting results, we're not, but we see a lot of brand mixed into the good results. So a lot of their just charity brand terms. So you think it's doing really well, and then you look and it's actually just people searching for their charity. So the results are a bit inflated. The beauty of PMax is you appear in all of Google's placements. So you should appear on shopping, maps. There's like 4 more, and I'm not going to do them off the top of my head, but you can only appear in maps and search. So kind of maps is great if you've got lots of shops, maybe. But yeah, we're not convinced. However, if I came here in 3 months' time, PMax is probably the one to use, knowing what Google do. Number 5 is reporting. And I said at the start, I just honestly bang my head against the table at what I see in terms of measuring performance in the sector. And again, not for the bigger charities we're working with, but it's certainly like that mid-level charity. There's just no measuring performance as far as we can see.
But what should a charity be measuring and reporting, and what shouldn't they?
Yeah. Okay. Great. Because again, annoying answer, but it's nuanced to what each charity is. But I'd always ask this to any charity: is what's the goal? There's park donations here, right? Because that's always going to be a goal.
Yeah.
But what are we trying to achieve throughout the year? Or what are we trying to achieve for the next 3 months? So the next 3 months, let's look at your event calendar, fundraising calendar, whatever it might be. But what are we trying to track? So Google Ad Grant it's an awareness driver first and foremost. But what we might do for one charity is we've decided that we can see a lot of traffic comes through to these 2 pages. So we're going to A/B test these 2 pages, and one of them we're going to try newsletter signups, and the other one we're going to try and get them to sign up to the upcoming workshop that we've got coming up, or whatever. And that might be a couple of conversions, and that's all we're really looking at. How are those performing? Because for me, like, clicks and awareness and impressions are, you know, you want to see them going up, but really, like, it doesn't matter. But for us, it's more how we understanding what's happening to inform our decision making moving forward. So we set up an ad grant. It's now got 3 months of data. How are we reading that data to suggest what our next moves are? So if I'm a charity, I would want to say, okay, right, so we've spent 3 months and I can see that these are the keywords that are driving all of our clicks in the ad grant, which is quite often the case. It might be a group of 10 keywords. Are those matched to the website? That might be one task. If they're not, great. There's like 5 content ideas to write different bits of articles or adapt web pages to reflect these keywords. If we've run a load of meta ads for a petition, and what are we looking at? We're trying to understand which creatives perform the best, because for our next campaign, we want to understand which creative hits hardest, so we can recreate that for our upcoming campaign.
So if you're reporting on ads, gives you insight to, we need to focus on creating stories that use these words more, or this creative works better over this creative.
Definitely.
That's connecting all of their tactics better, rather than just constantly focusing on one particular thing.
Each platform will report different data, so it's not perfect. You're not reading like Meta ads massively over-report, Google Analytics massively under-reports. Google Ads is sometimes sort of in the middle, but sometimes you even look at a Google Ad Grant and a Google Analytics, and they're not the same. So, or GA4. So you can't, like, it's about understanding the data that you can get, which is getting harder and harder to get.
I think the one thing that when we've spoken before is the end measurable of the impact, the difference that they've had with, whether Bowel Cancer UK supporting patients, helping change outcomes for people with cancer, or we've got a community meals and it's, they're supporting more people having a healthy meal. Well, that's the real impact that we all want to get to. So in your experience, how does data-driven, consistent optimization of ad grants really help and contribute to a charity's broader marketing success?
I mean, I'll try and give some examples. I think, we work with a very niche health charity in London who supports hospitals with extra funding for really niche machinery. I haven't nailed that for sure, but hematology department, for example, they need a new scanner. How many people searching for that on Google? And so we struggled. I think 3 months probably drove 50 clicks. But through working with them on their website that was very bare, and they're a really great charity, we were able to uncover some areas where there were bits of content. And it's been like a 3-year progression. But now, we spent $3,000 for marathon terms for their marathon fundraisers. They have a sort of drawing program in a few of their hospitals. We can see the fundraisers and the events that they run are getting more and more sign-ups. And it's been a really lovely one because it was a real challenge. But again, it then informs it builds confidence for them to say, that's gone quite well, should we run some meta ads? And they put a bit of budget behind it. Yeah, I've got countless examples. That's like a small one for a small charity, but there's other charities where LGBT who've just come on board with us. Within month 1, we spent $10,000, drove something like 8,000 new clicks to their website. So it can be really powerful for those bigger charities. But in terms of understanding data, so we will say with a new ad grant, first 3 months is just trying to get it to start moving. Then it's about understanding what those clicks are and how they're performing. And then after about 6 months is when you really start to see the results.
So I suppose that leads probably into one of my final questions. We've touched on it a few times, but I think it'd be helpful to understand a bit of a recap of the hiccups
Mm-hmm.
or the common misconceptions that charities have about ads, ad grants, what should be debunked?
Yeah, I think we made the mistake ourselves. I am the most easily sold to person in the world. So I speak to a charity and I instantly get on board with their mission. And I'm like, that's brilliant. We're going to help you. This is going to be amazing. But sadly, it goes back to that qualification process we have at the start. If there isn't search demand and your charity isn't broad enough to appeal to that search demand, the ad grant isn't for you. And I speak to charities weekly where we come to that conclusion. So that's a misconception that it works for it is available to everyone, but it doesn't work for everyone. The second one, is it's a really powerful opportunity to appear in front of someone because they're actively searching on Google. So it's brilliant for that. However, it's just not going to massively move the needle in terms of donations, if that's what you're coming for. And it's a big, and I think the more experience you get, the better you can handle it. But like, turning to the ad grant when you're a bit desperate, it's a red herring. It's a 6-month project to get it to actually generate some proper meaningful results or impactful results.
Well, I think that's a great point to end on, but but also to point on how best for an organisation, someone listening, to get in touch with you.
So yeah, we've got our website, which is farah.digital. We have we've got 51 charity members at the moment to the program. We work across ad grants, meta ads, any paid platform really. But yeah, for us, to get in touch, just come to a website, or I'm very vocal on LinkedIn. Yeah. And always up for connecting.
So that's brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise. I don't think you went too much off on a tangent. There's some real good, solid gold advice in there, Ollie. It's been an absolute pleasure. So that's all for this episode of Between Me and You. As always, I know there's absolute value in what you've heard, and I hope there's things that you can act upon straight away. Look forward to sharing more insights in the next episode of Between Me and You.